MzeroA Nation. Today we are talking with an airport operations officer, all things drones, at Melbourne Orlando International Airport. We are here with Seth Barber, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does here at KMLB.
My name is Seth. I'm an airport operations officer. Basically the background behind the scenes airport operations. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that: wildlife, construction, aircraft alerts, aircraft emergencies. It's a pretty long list, but a primary function that I have is the drone program. Basically built the drone program from scratch, and we use the drone for multi-purposes on the airport, which will be in construction as well as wildlife. It basically is an amazing tool to be able to use at an airport. We got hurricanes that come in, we need to prep for that, we can use the drone for that. We'll have security issues, or we'll have something happen outside the airport. We'll coordinate with the local police department. Drone is great for that. So there's a lot of stuff that the airport kind of requires and needs in regards for a drone, and a big part of my job is to provide that service.
So Seth, what sparked the idea to integrate drones into your airport?
That's a great question. It was something that my leadership have actually been thinking about for quite a long time, and they didn't really know how to kind of cross that line between, because the thing is that you have the drone world, and then you have the airport operations world, and it's two totally different worlds. Part of my interview was actually that I had to create a presentation on drones at an airport. I'd never done that before, right? I came from an aviation background as a commercial pilot, and then I spent some years in drone delivery, like large drones. And so bringing that experience to my interview, once I was hired, I just started right away. And just from scratch, I just built it up and continually add to it every single day.
So can you tell me a little bit more of what it takes to get certificated and be a drone operator at an airport like this?
Yeah, so of course, to be a drone pilot, just in general, you've got to get your Part 107 license, right? When you step on the other side of that certificate, you're kind of like, okay, what do I do now? In order to get into an airport, it's kind of split into two, right? You have the pilot side, and then you have the airport side. The pilot side is you're going to have to, of course, have your 107, but that when you come on board, we like to see quite a bit of hours and experience. I really want to see that you understand safety. I mean, we're at an airport, right? There's active aircraft flying and taking off all the time, right? So you can't just fly a drone like you're at the beach. It just doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. You have to be extremely, extremely on point. You have to have your head on a swivel. So I need to see that kind of attention to detail when it comes to operating a drone at an airport. And the way I've built this program is to have a core team of 4 pilots. And so you'll have your air boss, who basically, a lot of this comes from the drone world. You'll have your air boss who's overseeing the whole program, right? You might have 2 or 3 drone teams operating at once at an airport. And that person's responsibility is to make sure that all that is happening correctly, as well as coordinating with the towers. Very complicated process. After that, you'll have your RPIC, which is basically your PIC, right? Same thing, RPIC. They're in control of the drone. And then they'll have a safety pilot. That pilot's really main job is if the RPIC goes down and we have a problem, that safety pilot can step in and keep the operation safe. Then I'll have a visual observer, which may change in the future with the FAA doing beyond visual line of sight. Mm-hmm. But that person, of course, is going to be on site or close by, whatever it is that the job requires. So that's your kind of 4-person team. In order to have a drone program at an airport, what I had to do was, I started with a DJI. We had to get the manufacturer's permission to fly this specific model in this airspace, because right now we're in a zero airspace. Basically meaning I cannot take off without permission anywhere in this airspace. So that is a big consideration. We're at 0. And so getting that permission, getting that unlocked on the drone is important. But then if you take it to the next level, now we have to get the local airport's permission, the airport authority. Can we fly and operate a drone at your airport? Being that we're in-house, it's a little different, because it's pretty easy to just get, the executives.
Self-approval.
Yeah, exactly, kind of, in a way. But if you're an external drone pilot trying to get onto an airport, you really have to have the permission of the airport. The next level is to get your actual airspace authorization. You're going to do that through the FAA. You're going to do that through FAA Drone Zone. get your permissions, put everything in there. You know, there's quite a bit of a process to get that airspace authorization request. When that's done, your last and final boss is the air traffic control tower. You have to have their permission. You have to have a good relationship with the tower cab, with the tower manager, and you have to build that trust. Because if they don't trust you, you're never flying a drone in an airport, right? And then once you get that final approval, I like to add one more layer on top of it, just for an additional element of safety. I like to get the local police department's permission as well. To respect the local community, I will get the permission of the police department, let them know, hey, we're gonna be flying a drone today.
There's definitely a lot of checks, a lot of people you have to kind of get verified that you're allowed to do exactly what you have to do.
Exactly.
But then especially for our video or our viewers of just getting started, your advice is really practice the procedures with using the drone and get hours.
Yes, yes, and the nice thing about this time that we're in, oh, you have a career as a pilot? Yeah, that makes sense. You have a career as a drone pilot? That doesn't really, what is that?
It's new. it's new, exciting, but it's new.
Yeah, and so to take it to the next level, how about having a career as a drone pilot at an airport? But it can be accomplished, and it is an extremely rewarding job. Who gets to fly drones at an airport while airplanes are taking off in the background? It's just not it's almost like you're doing something forbidden in a way, and it feels really cool to be able to be part of that.
So how do you coordinate with drone operations for the communication side of things in an airspace with ATC?
Yeah, great question. This is a very important question because a lot of people don't really know how that works. Going kind of back to what I said before, you have to have your permissions, FAA, ATC, all that stuff. You kind of just have to have the paperwork side done. The next step for me is I do my frat sheet, right? I'm gonna be looking at what's the weather, what's my I'm safe checklist, like all the pilot, you know, the 3P model, all that stuff applies, right? We're operating in the same kind of, aviation environment. So all that is done, and that's all part of our drone program. That's in our SOP. Once all that is kind of done, I'll file a pre-flight report, right? Basically, I'm not taking the flight, I'm not putting the drone in the air until this step has been completed, right? And the main reason is, and I'm getting to your question, the main reason is because if the FAA were to come and ask me, hey, what happened on this day? It was a near miss or something. I need to be able to have the paperwork to say, here's exactly what the plan was. You know, it's the same thing, you know, with airplanes. You file a flight plan, you go from there, same idea. Once that all is complete, now I have checked off all the boxes for myself. I'll come out to the airfield, I'll have a spot like this. This isn't a closed area. I like this area because it is a closed area. It's not on an active taxiway, it's not on an active runway. If it were to be in an active area, then from the airport operations side, I'm gonna put a NOTAM in there that basically will close that taxiway for a short amount of time. And then I'm coordinating that with the tower. I'll set up and I'll get ready, I'll get the radio, and I'll give the tower a call. My call sign is UAS 1. So it'll sound something like this. I'll say, Melbourne ground, UAS 1 at taxiway hotel or closed taxiway hotel, requesting operating at or below 150 feet. I'll remain south of all runways. I'll remain out of all safety areas and all approach paths at all times. And what that's doing is I'm front loading all the permissions and all the, you can trust me, this is what I'm gonna do, because if I don't say that stuff, they're gonna come back and tell me to do that. And we have an agreement with our tower that says we're allowed to basically front load all that information. And they'll say, approved as requested, give us a call when you're complete.
So for our viewers who might not be pilots, not in aviation just yet, they are just scratching at the surface of remote pilot, what is a NOTAM?
NOTAM, yes. So NOTAM, however you want to say it, is an acronym for Notice to Airmen. Basically, it's call it an APB, call it a news flash. You know, basically, it allows anybody who's operating at the airport or nearby the airport. There's some special condition that's happening at this airport, and you need to know about it. It's about as simple as it gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I personally had no idea that to fly a drone at an airport, you had to file one.
Yeah.
So that's news to me. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for teaching
Sure.
me.
You know, it's honestly, to avoid the Swiss cheese model, I'm stacking as many probabilities in my favor for success to hopefully stay as far away from that high risk situation. And if, God forbid, something ever does happen, from my standpoint, you got to think, Well, now we're going to be in a legal standpoint, right? So do I want to be out there without any armor on? No, I want to have like my legal stuff covered, and having the NOTAM in the system is just one more way of kind of protecting myself, but again, protecting the airport and their name and their entity.
Absolutely. And I mean, we know it from the pilot perspective, and then there's also the drone perspective, but flying it at the airport is where it really crosses over, and that's why we wanted to highlight that.
Yeah,
so
it's a
thank you
hybrid.
for kind of clarifying that
Of course.
for our viewers.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about the drone out here and everything to get us ready and get us started. So with your role and responsibilities though, let's talk about what the drone is actually going to be doing and working at the airport. What are some of the things that you do as a drone pilot at the airport?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing at an airport, well, I'll just start with real basic. We're looking at wildlife. You'll get coyotes, you'll get birds, you'll get, you name it. I've had a deer out here. I traced and tracked a deer with the drone, and I've even traced and tracked an alligator with the drone.
Wow.
I found an alligator that was close to our main runway, and I used the drone. It's got thermal signature on it. It's got IR, which I learned cold-blooded animals don't go well on the IR.
I was just about to say,
right?
I was like, how did that work with an alligator?
Yeah, but it has happened before where an alligator gets too close to a runway. We've got to remove that threat. Some of the bigger airports like Denver and Atlanta, what they're doing is they're using the drone as a wildlife predator. So you have a bunch of birds by a runway. That's bad, right? They'll coordinate with the tower. They'll actually use a drone to fly and scare off the birds. The birds fly away. Now we have a nice, easy way to disperse wildlife. It's economically friendly because we're not, really disturbing the environment. We're just encouraging the animals to go to another part of the area.
That's very cool. I mean, I'm used to hearing like
Scare rounds.
Yeah, the scare rounds for the birds to leave the runway area. So that's very cool. I had no idea that they were using it like that.
Absolutely.
So segue right into it.
Yeah.
Emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
How are we using drones at the airport?
Yep. So we have what's called an MCI, which basically is in case we have an airplane that is a large accident, right? We have a lot of people going to the hospital. In that case, we do it. The airport does a practice one every 3 years, and so I took the drone and I flew over the accident aircraft. It was all simulated, and basically showing the process of this just happened. From my standpoint, from the airport standpoint, and being a pilot, I know that when there's an accident, right? We don't want to talk about it because it's horrible, but it happens, right? So you have to address it. There is evidence that happens at that scene. Just like with two cars that crash on the road, that evidence can get tainted or spoiled very quickly, right? You bring more people on the scene, you can contaminate. Sorry, you can contaminate the scene. That drone will capture that evidence almost immediately. I'll use that evidence. I'll provide it to the NTSB, which isn't going to be here for a couple hours. I'll provide it to the FAA. It's critical for when it comes to accidents. And a big part of my job is to also respond to that accident, right? So a drone can give me the opportunity to call the fire department or call emergency services and say, listen, we have a fuel fire, bring a different chemical to put out the fire. That kind of information is life-saving. It really is, right? What are we looking at here? Are we looking at just a paper fire, or are we looking at something bigger, And so that can hopefully shorten the response time a little bit, even 30 seconds. I'll take it, right? That could be a life right there.
So at Remote Pilot 101, I know we try to stay as current and inform our audiences of what's changing and what's kind of being announced. And we actually had a video recently drop on Part 108 about BV loss. So tell me how that is kind of impacting with your drone operations as well at the airport.
Part 108 to me is very exciting. And I know that they're just at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to beyond visual line of sight. I want to see the commercial side. Hey, you're a commercial operator. You're not a hobbyist, right? No, not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But that would fall under Part 107. Something we're doing here at the airport on a commercial or industrial level, I'd love to see that fall under Part 108. So I want that to apply to what we do from a federal aviation regulatory standpoint, right? That's what I would really love to see. When it comes to using that, I know it's a little tricky. It's tricky at an airport because that might apply if you're doing last mile delivery, where you're delivering a package, which I've done, to a neighborhood. But at an airport, I do not want to be losing sight of that drone ever. So it might be legal, but is it safe? And that's the real big caveat, I guess you could say, that I hope people don't fall into. I hope they don't fall into this, oh, I've got beyond visual line of sight, I don't need a VO, it's behind the trees, whatever. No, you're still at an airport, right? There could be a helicopter taking off over in that area, or you could have something going on over in that area, and the drone is always a hazard. That drone has to yield to the entire airport. Every operation on this airport, it has to yield to that because they cannot see the drone. There's no signature. I know we have remote pilot ID and stuff, but it's just not really what it needs to be, right? We need ADS-B on the drones. Do I want that? Yes. Do I want that? No. You kind of understand where I'm coming from.
I think that's exactly why it is so unique for the airport, like airspace, is because BVLOS, the entire concept is beyond visual line of sight. So with the safety and separation, that's not where Part 108 kind of falls.
Right.
So, I mean, like you said, it's hypothetically, it's a wonderful thing, and commercially it's a wonderful thing, but then for the actual safety standards of the separation with the visual, of aircraft coming in, the busy airspace, that's where Part 108, it's not really in conjunction with the airspace.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and anytime you can remove regulation from something, yes, that's good, but it's also bad. Yeah, I need to see the drone the whole time, right? I need to know where that drone is. Even if I have legal permission to fly beyond visual line of sight, is it safe? No, it's a risk. So I need to mark that as a risk on my frat sheet. We're at an airport, we're in complicated airspace. This is high risk.
So what is the next step in innovations for drone operations for you? What would you like to see happen next?
I love that question, Sarah. I think about this a lot, right? I don't want to become stagnant. Like you said, a good pilot's always learning. I've had that drilled in my head since the early, 2000s when Jason started saying it. I apply that to the drone world. It's really no different. It's just on a smaller scale. I dream about drone in a box, right? We're at an airport. It takes time. I'll give you a little bit of a story. I was coming out, we got an aircraft alert, something happened, we didn't know what it was. I'm coming out of the operations building and I see black smoke. Uh-oh, right? You see black smoke, the first thing you think is airplane crashed, right?
Yep.
So I grab my drone, I get out here, and then I see that it's coming from one of the construction sites. It was actually a fire on top of the roof. The second thought I had was the worst case scenario, right? An aircraft collided into the building, right? So I'm like, oh geez, here we go. Turns out it was just a electrical fire, small. It was no big deal, right? But we didn't know that information at the time. The time it took me to get out of the building when I got the alert to the time that I was on site, we're talking best 3 to 5 minutes. A drone on the box I can deploy that thing within seconds. Basically, for those who don't know, a drone in a box is a drone that's installed on the airport. It's just like any other fixture. And that drone sits in the box and waits for a command. And so from a command center, I can then pull up the software. We have an aircraft accident or say black smoke, whatever it is. I can get the phone call done. I can say I need to deploy this drone. If we have to close the airport, I can close the airport right there. I don't have to get into a truck and go. This is where the beyond visual line of sight can kind of really, all right, let's squeeze as much juice out of this lemon, right? Now I can deploy that drone from a stationary point on the airport. The airspace is clear. I've got the airport. It's safe. Every airport has a drone on the box. Every airport can deploy that as an emergency break glass in case of fire kind of situation. And you might even never use that thing. It might just sit in the box and you just maintain it and whatever. You might never use it, but at least it's there. Rather have it, not need it, than need it and not have it.
Thank thank you so much for today. I learned a lot. I know our viewers have learned a lot. This was super informative, and I want to thank you also for the time and dedication that you have put in and are currently putting in for the community, and also spreading this information to other airports and making sure that they have the opportunities to jump on board. But I want to thank you. Is there anything else that you want to kind of close out the video for our viewers?
I just want to say I appreciate the ability to come in here and talk about such a rare thing, and you've given me the opportunity to collaborate with Remote Pilot 101, just to kind of, not everybody really knows the behind the scenes. You know, you hear about drones at an airport, you really don't know what goes on there, and there's so much that happens, and there's so much amazing things. And being able to actually have a career as a drone pilot, think about airport operations, right? It's new, it's growing, it's something to really take into consideration. And you get to be at an airport every day. You know, you get to be around airplanes, you get to be in this really cool environment. That doesn't mean you have to stop flying. You can work at an airport and be a pilot at the same time. So I would say encourage anybody. As a pilot myself, there were many times that I wanted to quit. I was overwhelmed with federal regulations. I was overwhelmed with studying, with flying. And I just said, just keep going, just persevere, persevere, persevere. And if you do that, you'll finally get on the other side, and you'll start to look back, and you'll really appreciate the journey. Something I like to say on my social media all the time is to be journey minded, right? It's about the journey. You gotta think about the destination's great, but don't miss out on the journey, right? And really, really take that into heart, because you could blink quick, right? And something like an opportunity could go by. So I want to personally thank you and on behalf of MzeroA as well, being here. And in Melbourne, Orlando International Airport appreciates the little bit of time that we got to spend here. Like I said, if anybody wants to reach out, has any questions, how do I get started? What do I do? Because that's usually the big question. I don't even know where to start. I can help you out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Check the link in the description below. Subscribe for more information about Remote Pilot 101 or MzeroA, just everything in the aviation industry. We're here to support you, educate you, just like Seth is doing. And remember, a good pilot is always learning.